Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? It's Geoff Mosher and Adam Caplan. Our midweek Inside the Birds as we have a quick turnaround here and we turn the page on a very painful loss for the Eagles and their fans. They lose 22-21 in a heartbreaker
Hmm.
to the Atlanta Falcons, a game that they figured out. I think I said in the post-game show they looked like they were going to snatch victory out of the jaws of defeat when instead they gave the victory back to the jaws of defeat and lost. Um, you watched Adam, the film doesn't lie. It wasn't pretty. There are a lot of issues with this team that were manifested in this game, but you don't need a whole lot of words to describe it, meaning that they have real issues in run defense, they have real issues with pass rush, and offensively without AJ Brown, they were a very unbalanced offense and didn't do a good enough job of either scheming guys getting open or seeing guys who are open, and therefore you have what you have. And it's kind of scary. I've thought about this, Adam. You could say, hey, if Saquon Barkley catches this pass, the Eagles are 2-0. I think you could also say if a couple of things go the other way in the Green Bay game, you're close to being 0-2. So that's
Yeah,
how parity is, but that's also about this Eagles team, how I guess in the middle they are right now, and they're
sure.
teetering on the edge if they don't start to get things right.
Yeah, look, I think when we look at what happened, in fact, we know because we talked to Greg Cosell on Tuesday night for with our Patreon members, and we asked them certain questions about what the offense and defense look like on tape, obviously, because that's what Greg does. And I had a gut feeling. We'll talk more to Greg about this when we break down actually what the tape looked like on the Inside the Tape show, which drops tomorrow, is it?
Yes, that'll drop tomorrow.
And our Patreon members get it tonight. But the thing that we were pretty certain of is that guys were getting open and Hertz was just not delivering. I would like to get more detail on that, which is a real issue last year. So we're going to get a better look at that. But that's the thing. We can't blame coaches all the time. Now, I'm not saying guys could have been schemed open better. Why didn't the running backs get the ball in the pass game? Why don't you get certain guys involved? I had a problem with that. But overall, the quarterback's got to deliver the football when it's there. It's something that we're going to keep tracking. Again, it's only 2 weeks. It was better in week one, not good in week two. You can't blame everything on AJ Brown. Yes, that's a factor, but it's not the only factor. There are a lot of factors why they didn't score and why didn't move the football enough.
Mhm.
But and AJ Brown confirms or tells ESPN, Lisa Solders, that it's going to be a couple weeks, which realistically could put him out until the bye week. In fact, after the bye week, because they have a bye in week 5. They only have 2 more games before the bye. This week's and the following week at Tampa. So life ain't grand without AJ Brown. It's tough, and it's tough on the coaches. It's tough on the quarterback. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and they look like a mediocre football team, which is what you're really talking about right now.
Exactly. Thank you. That was you're right. They look like a mediocre football team. In win and in loss, they look like a mediocre football team. Now, the good thing is you and I are pretty good at this. I know right now the entire Delaware Valley thinks the Eagles stink and that there's no hope in sight because their personnel, because a lot of the guys that they brought in who are going to be starters, like Bryce Huff, for example, just to name one,
Oof.
Devin White not even playing. You're not expecting this. You're seeing it not work out, and you're thinking this is the way it's going to be all year long. There are things I saw defensively and offensively that are correctable. I know that that's a trite used statement in the NFL, but it is true. And I am going to put a little bit of faith in this veteran offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator that they'll be able to clean things up. Penalties on offense are the biggest thing I think that they can clean up, along with some other things. Defensively, run defense can be a gap thing. It could also be an alignment thing. And there were some
Yep.
guys who were just not getting off blocks, but they can also do things as far as getting downhill quicker, changing how they defend certain situations that I think you'll see happen. So I don't want people to think that this is the version of the Eagles you're going to see for the next 15 weeks. I get it that last year, once they started losing, you literally saw that version of the Eagles for the last 7 weeks of the season. I don't think that will be the case. I think the Eagles will be more competitive. I'm not jumping off any train right now, and I'm gonna try to urge. I think we both are a little bit of
Mhm.
patience here from the fans to understand that there's an ebb and flow to the season. There's a lot of newness going on, and I do think better days are ahead for this team.
I do, but here's the one thing that it's not on the coaches. I just don't think, listen, I was at training camp. I know what I saw.
Hmm.
I don't know how many times they said on our platforms, and anyone who asked me, I said they got a real pass rush problem. It's not about the amount of players they have. It's not a numbers thing. It's not a quantity. It's quality. They just don't have anyone who can get the quarterback. It's BG can do it, but they had their edge rushers don't have a sack yet, which is strange. And it's only 2 games, but they got a pass rusher problem. That is the biggest problem right now on the football team. I
It
mean,
is. I do feel like there are ways to unlock guys through scheme, whether you play more line games, you twist, you
yep,
stunt. You
yep.
remember, I know it was thumb related, but this Hassan Reddick's second year with the team, right? That he hurt his thumb. He started off with like no
Hmm.
sacks in the first 4 or 5 games, but they didn't just wait for the thumb to heal. They started to move around them a little bit. They did different things. I think Vic and Clint Hurt and Jeremiah Washburn have to figure out ways to do that better. Jalen Carter is a guy who has to show up a little bit more, but I think they could also figure out a way to loop him around so he's more like a D end than just a D tackle all the time where he's double teamed, right? There's schematic ways. Same thing with Bryce Huff, Sweat. I mean, you're right. Some of these guys, like a Josh Sweat, maybe he just no longer is that player anymore. And maybe he's more like the player at the end of last year. But I don't think all hope is lost for this. I just think schematically they've got to do some things differently. That doesn't mean you're right. It doesn't mean it's perfect and they're going to be a great pass rush team. But I do think you're going to see some changes in how they go about attacking quarterbacks with their pass rushers instead of just throwing them out there and expecting things to change.
Well, here's the problem. Bryce Huff has done nothing. He was invisible. Now, on your point, yes, maybe they'll try to move him around. He's just not comfortable in the scheme.
Right.
Nolan Smith has been a big zero. He didn't do much in training camp. What he did was he fared fairly well against the twos in practice. Didn't do anything against the ones.
Fair.
Not shown up in the first 2 games. We just talked about BG, who we love, but he's 36 years old. Josh Sweat is on the downward trend. We don't know where he's at. We don't know what he has left. It has not looked good, what we're told. Jalen Hunt only played on defense. It was his first game as a professional. They got, excuse me, only in specials. At least he got on grass and got to see what it's like to play in an NFL game. He's
Mm-hmm.
raw. He needs
Mm-hmm.
a lot of work. There's a lot of talent to develop, but he's a down the road player. I don't know that they're going to get it. I'll be honest with you. I hear what you're saying. It's fair, but I'm not convinced that they're going to get it because I'm stunned that Bryce Huff, because I saw him in training camp. It's not like, okay, it's only 2 games. Like I can get off to a slow start. But if I'd seen something good in training camp, I'd say, okay, he'll be fine. Well,
Mm-hmm.
he's not fine right now. And
Yeah, that's
it's
fair.
there's
Very
15
fair.
games left, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I'm operating on a leap of faith. I'm also in my mind. I think we do this a lot, right? Because we know the game really well. We talk to
Yeah.
coaches, and I'm thinking, all right, there's going to be a counter adjustment. Like take a guy like Devin White. We know he can rush the passer. Maybe there is a role for him in a sim pressure like scheme where you see him active and you see on certain packages he's lined up at linebacker, he's blitzing, somebody else is dropping. I just know that this coaching staff's not going to expect to do the same thing over and
I
over
got you.
and expect a
Sure.
different result. So
To
yeah,
help.
that doesn't. You're right. It doesn't mean that there will be better results, but I do know that there will be better attempts to get better
Sure.
results, and I have to think that that might pay off.
Because they sent Nakobe Dean to crash a little bit,
Hmm.
quasi blitz. It didn't really work. It's interesting because and we'll talk more about the Saints later this week, and they got it going on with Clint Kubiak. I mean, I know you watch. I think you said you watch. Did you watch some of them? I know you watched some tape.
Yes, yeah, I watched
Yeah.
the first half against Dallas, and I watched a little bit of their first game against was Carolina, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
they scored touchdowns on 10 straight possessions, by the way, from week
And yeah,
one.
they're on fire, and the players are just gaga over Clint Kubiak. In fact, apparently they loved him in the OTAs. They, Derek Carr's playing the scheme before, but not this exact one, not this kind of West Coast.
Yeah.
The West Coast offenses now are the rage in the NFL. Like they've made a major comeback
Hmm.
in a big way. No one's stopping them.
Yeah, you're even seeing fullbacks now, Adam. You're seeing fullbacks
Yeah,
back on the field and all
yeah.
that
It's
stuff.
not
Yeah.
just the Niners running 21 personnel. I mean, it's pretty remarkable what the Saints have done so far. And Derek Carr is one of the most frustrating quarterbacks. It usually goes south with him. Eventually becomes a check down quarterback, risk averse. doesn't throw the football when it's there. You know, it generally happens. It hasn't happened yet because he's played very well, but they're also a front running team. They're getting such big leads. They haven't put it on him yet. But again, we'll talk more. But we just want to mention that's what's coming this week. And
Definitely.
without looking it up, when is the last time the Eagles have won at New Orleans? I can't remember.
I believe it was 2000.
Oh,
Yeah, 24 years ago.
oh, vey.
How many times have they played? I
Yeah, of
believe
course.
they are 0-4 in their last four games there, or 1-5. It's a losing record. I actually did look it up the other day, and
Okay.
it was pretty bleak. It's
Okay.
pretty bleak. Like I said in our post game show, the Superdome is a very, very difficult place to play when the Saints are just a mediocre team. When they are when they are a storyline like the Drew Brees Saints were, right? What now this year, these Saints 2-0, that place will be louder than the loudest stadium you've ever been. I mean, it is cacophonous in there. You can't hear yourself think. They pipe in music. It's just crazy. So the Eagles will be dealing with a whole lot when they go into that stadium.
I would say the loudest stadium I was at, it was the Metrodome, the former Viking Stadium. It
The
was back
Hubert
in
H.
like,
Humphrey Metrodome?
yes, it was either '08 or 9 playoffs. And I literally, you remember how were you in, I'm sure you were at the game. The press box is like a box, like
Yes.
so you can't really type. It's impossible. It was so small. But if you were sitting next to me, I couldn't hear what you were saying. I have to ask you to repeat it. And the Mercedes Superdome is super loud. It's really it used to be a great home field advantage. Then the Saints became
Mhm.
bad, and it was no home field advantage at all because they just weren't good. Team's not good. It doesn't really matter where you play, you
Right.
know.
Right.
But it's fair to bring it up. But that's what's coming here. But what I've learned about this business, right when you think a team can't win, the exact opposite happens. This season so far, man, it's for the people who bet. It is not going well for people who are picking games.
Mhm.
It's been a lot of surprises so far.
All right, a couple of things the Eagles have to clean up, in particular with the Saints coming on deck. Well, with anyone really, penalties. They have to
Oh,
stop with the illegal man downfield. Greg Cosell made a great point when he was talking to our Patreon members in the Ask Greg Cosell. The Eagles got penalized for an illegal man downfield on the second play of the game. Now, everybody in their mother knows that football teams script the first, they try to script the first 15 plays. You don't always stick to it, but usually play number two is something that you have repped and repped and repped over and over and over in practice because that's part of your first 15. To get an illegal man downfield on the second play of scrimmage is almost incomprehensible. And yet it happened to the Eagles, and you got about three or four of them. One of them happened at a really inopportune time. I mean, they're all inopportune, but they got to clean that up. There was a holding on Johnny Wilson. There was a face mask on Brandon Graham that honestly, that wasn't his fault. I mean, it's almost like Bijan was so fast he juked into it. Some of that stuff is going to happen, but the illegal man downfield has to be cleaned up.
Covey lost 2 plays for it, and then they had to
Covey.
delay a game that Hertz had an 18-yard scramble.
Mm-hmm.
Came back without looking it up. I just remember writing it down. I'm like, how does this happen? They had 9 penalties.
Yeah, he spiked the ball and got himself a penalty. I thought that was a little bit lame. I know it's an
Yeah,
NFL rule, but to
yeah.
me, I think it's a stupid rule because guys spin the ball all the time, and that takes just as much time off the clock. And they call Hurts for a delay of game for spiking it. I think that's silly. But
Unfortunately, it's as the guy who was in the booth for ESPN said, it's a textbook penalty. It has to be a
it is.
penalty. I mean, you got to know that.
Yep.
But the thing is, and you were talking about at the top here, and it is cliche-ish. Most of their issues are clean upable, but Hertz has got to play better. You didn't have a good game. They ran, boy, but the positives are good. Boy, Barkley looks phenomenal. He was phenomenal running the football. Yes, he dropped it, but the self-inflicted wounds are see that unforced errors, which we have in tennis. That's on you. Like you got to clean the stuff that you can control. Brad Childress would say, control the controllables. That the stuff that you can control, you can't just let happen. You just mention it with legal man downfield, which we saw 2 years ago when they had a really bad streak of it. Then they cleaned it up. Like that
Yep.
stuff that stuff you know about. Like
Yep.
I understand the linemen don't know on an RPO whether it's going to be a run or pass, but they know the timing on it. They know what they can. They know after like 2 seconds they can go upfield. But bottom line is a lot of this stuff can be cleaned up, and the stuff that It's just on the players individually. Uh, Barkley not dropping a football right in his bleeping hands. Are you serious?
Absolutely.
Um, I'd like to see a little bit more from Kellen Moore in terms of getting the backs involved in the pass game, which we thought we would see. We saw it in week one. Barkley was 2 for 2 on and obviously had the great touchdown catch. But the bottom line is, as you said earlier, it's very fair. It's they've only played 2 games. We should also mention they might be in the NFL's worst division.
They could be.
Uh,
Absolutely. That might
it,
be fair.
we're back to the NFL least. I mean, NFC least. I mean, the Cowboys have given up 90 points, I think, around
Mhm.
there in their last 2 home games. I mean, talk about no home field advantage.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So I'm glad you mentioned Hurts needing to play better. I want to implore everybody to please listen on Thursday to Inside the Tape, the tape breakdown show we do at Greg Cosell. There is a narrative that's been going around since basically Tuesday that Jalen Hurts should be absolvable for the loss because he played well and nobody else did, and that the only thing he did wrong was the interception at the end of the game, which by the way was kind of big. He didn't have to
Yeah.
throw that interception. They could have gotten a field goal. That is not a correct narrative. I understand why that's out there because he made a lot of plays. He got a lot of first downs with his legs. Did he play a gritty game? Absolutely. Did he play a gutty game? Absolutely. Did he move the chains at times they needed to with his legs and a couple of good throws? Yes, absolutely. Did he leave plays on the field that would have made him not have to run the ball and take those hits that he did? Yes. Greg Cosell has seen it. We'll talk about it. I think it's not right to say he played a good game if you're talking about the context of seeing the field, passing the ball, distributing, getting the ball to the right place against a certain look. It was not a great game. It wasn't a terrible game. I'm just telling you,
It wasn't
the
good.
narrative that you people
He
are
didn't play
hearing
well.
that he played a really good game is not correct. That's just you're watching him run around and try to take the offense on his back and be hero, which he does very well, but it doesn't mean he's playing the position the way he's being asked by his coaches to play it.
Yeah, this stuff has nothing to do with coaching. He breaks himself down way too much. He moves when he should move. It was really bad last season,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't good in this game. It just I don't understand. It had nothing to do with A. See, this stuff has nothing to do with AJ Brown. Like literally nothing. It has nothing to do with it.
Right. There's guys
You,
open.
yeah, but my point is right. But within that, what's connected to that is that he ruins the progression by moving. It totally kills it.
Right.
Don't move. Run the play like it's supposed to be run. And then if pocket
Right.
breaks down, go.
Right.
You
Or
know,
move up, not out.
step up,
You
right? Which
move
you pointed
up,
out last
you
year.
will see it. Yep.
Yeah. He kept moving. I don't understand. He's moving for the sake of moving when there's no pressure. Like he's not the only quarterback that does it. You can't do that. I don't understand it. Now, the thing is, it wasn't like he wasn't rushed in 22 when he was terrific. I don't understand. I can't get into a quarterback's head. I don't know why he does this. It's a really bad habit. It's not a coaching issue. It has nothing to do with coaching. Because he sees the tape on Monday and they're showing it to him, folks. That's the
Yeah.
way it works in the NFL. So he's got to be better.
Yeah. Now, protection was pretty good. We talked about this in the post-game show.
Yeah.
Protection was good. There were a couple of breakdowns on the right side on stunts. Now, the Saints have a good defensive front, and I did notice Chase Young seems to be playing pretty well for the Saints. He is a new addition for them. He didn't have a bad year last year. He wasn't number one overall pick, but I think he had 7 or 8 sacks last year, a decent amount of pressures. Looks like he's fitting in pretty well on the Saints defensive line. So he'll obviously be someone they're going to have to make sure. And then the Saints are doing a lot with their linebackers. You know, Demario Davis has always been a good blitzer. Now they're asking him to blitz and cover. So they're a pretty tenacious front. I mean, it helps when you're up by 30 points after the first quarter. I mean, you can basically tee off and do whatever you want to do. But the Saints have played well, so the offensive line will have to communicate. And Adam, this will be the loudest atmosphere. I don't care how loud Brazil was. It might have been loud, but that one might have been 50-50 or a bunch of Brazil fans who didn't have a true allegiance. It's going to be crazy for the center and the right guard to communicate there.
Yeah, exactly. Two guys new to that position. I'm looking at the rest of their schedule when they're on the road where it's really loud. Cincy's not really. You've been to Cincy. It's not like super loud.
No, no, Cincinnati.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I'm just saying that. Yeah, I'm looking at the away games. Baltimore. Baltimore's they're usually. I know they're 0-2, but they're usually one of the best home teams. It's never
Mhm.
easy to win there. But that's. I'm looking at the not the Tampa. I know they've had some crazy games in Tampa, but they'll be
But
it'll be
but
it'll be well.
usually that's like 60% Eagles
I'm just gonna
fans.
bring that up.
So yeah,
Well
yeah.
attended by Eagle fans. Sure, sure.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this will probably be there's not that many. I mean, there's Seattle, there's Kansas City, there's New Orleans, Philadelphia, obviously, that the
Cleveland,
Eagles don't have to worry about.
Cleveland's
Steelers
tough.
can bring it too, but
Yeah.
usually it's the dome stadiums and things like that where you
Yep.
really get the noise. Pass rush, we already talked about it. That's got to come alive, and I'm sure we're going to see something different. It'll be very interesting to see I talk about this leash, right, with Vic Fangio. Okay. He's been
No.
sticking with Avante Maddox. Avante played better in game
Yeah.
two. Let's
Yeah.
see the leash that he has on these edge rushers and if Jalen Hunt gets any kind of actual time in the pass
Wow.
rush.
Wow. Well, I would say with that one, and I don't know, I'm going to look into it, but they didn't really need to have him active. Maybe it's just to get him ready to, hey, listen, let's get you a new game and it'll only be specials. Let's start you out here. Let's get you used to being on an NFL field and then work. It's on your point. Maybe they start working him in over the next 3 to 4 weeks, give him a 5 to 7 snaps a game. Ordinarily, you wouldn't do it, but their pass rush is so bad that I know it's only 2 games, but again, this is a manifestation of the training camp. And Andrew DeCecco and I used to talk about it when we were in camp. We just didn't see it.
Right.
And our eyes don't lie. We don't need to see coaching tape, and we don't see the Eagles practice tape to know this. We saw it in training camp. It was tough for them to get the quarterback. Nakobe, by the way, blitzed really well in training camp. I'm interested to see, on your points, a very fair point, a very smart one. What do the coaches do to help alleviate this issue? You can't completely alleviate it; it's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
But how are they going to help these guys? And guys, it's I don't know. It's with Bryce Huff, new scheme. He's not used to playing like this. He's having to do things he hasn't really done before. Josh Sweat has dropped off. We don't know what he's got left here. Nolan Smith has been non-existent, and BG, we'll have to see. And I'm interested to see. Yeah, we talk about Nolan Smith. I'm just interested to see what the coaches have going forward here because this is a very tough thing. But Derek Carr does not react well to pressure. He does not. That's been another thing with him over the years.
Right. One thing I've noticed, we'll talk about it more in the pregame. I mean, the Saints avoided third down pretty well against the Cowboys. I think they only had 8 in total, and they converted 3 of them, and that's
Yeah,
because they won
I
on
know.
first and second down with play action with big chunk plays, right? So to your point, Derek didn't really have to worry about pressure because he was bombs away on first and second down when the Cowboys were probably playing the run and getting suckered in by all the play action and the motion and the eye candy. So if the Eagles can get Derek Carr in third down, I think that would be a really good positive step, and then you'd see a different kind of quarterback than you've seen the first 2 weeks. But your point on coaching, really, really important for the next thing we're going to talk about. I got to say, I'm really surprised about this. And this is really important for the Saints, what they do offensively, very similar to what the Falcons do, running the wide zone. Okay. I am very surprised that this veteran coaching staff on defense allowed the defensive front of the Eagles against the Falcons to defend the wide zone the way they did, which was, and Greg did a great job of explaining it. When you're an offensive line blocking on wide zone, you're not going forward. You're all going horizontally at the same time. You're reach blocking the defensive lineman in front of you, using his inside shoulder and just sort of guiding him toward either right or left, wherever the play side is going. And the Eagles defensive linemen just offered no resistance. They were letting themselves get blocked horizontally, which then allowed the backside offensive lineman on the play to get into the second level and cut on Zach Bond or cut on Nakobe Dean if he was backside. I mean, it was textbook. They did exactly what they wanted to do. And I didn't see any adjustment on defense. Clint Hurt, you've been coaching a long time. You're a coordinator. Vic Fangio, Washburn, like, what are you guys doing? I was shocked that they just allowed that to happen all game long with no change.
Yeah, and that'll come. Obviously, the tape was so bad against the run that I mean, they'll continue to work on it. Like you said, these are 2 veteran coaches. They know they work together in Chicago together. I expect this to get done. Oh, by the way, the note about that the Inquirer put out on Jalen Carter, why we know he didn't start is for disciplinary reasons.
Yeah. Apparently it was
So
late to a team function or something.
yeah, it's not good. I mean, I know it's a minor thing, but enough to have him not start. So the maturity issue we know with Carter was significant coming in the draft. It's why he dropped to the Eagles. There's a reason why he dropped to the Eagles, despite the incredible talent. So we're just gonna have to watch this.
Yep.
about him doing the right thing all the time off the field.
Yeah, I mean, on top of that, he maybe made about 2 or 3 plays. Like, it's not like he would dominated the game the way you would expect Jalen Carter at this point of his career to, second year to dominate. So that is a big thing against the Saints. The Saints run, like you just said, a similar style of offense, similar style of run offense, and Alvin Kamara right now is looking like Alvin Kamara of 7 years ago. So that is right now the single biggest issue facing this Eagles defense, being able to stop that run game of the Saints, and then whatever play action that's going to follow.
Kamara, by the way, he's leading the NFL in running backs and touchdowns already. He has 4. He, the scheme, because I don't know if he's even played in this kind of West Coast offense before, but he is off to an unbelievable start. Rashid Shaheed is one of the elite deep threats in the NFL. Doesn't catch the ball a lot, and they don't have to throw it a lot. Last week, Carr only threw the ball 16 times. 16.
Unbelievable. How do you
Anyway,
score 40 something
yeah.
points and only have your quarterback complete like 13 passes?
11.
It's just
11.
11. That's got to be an NFL. That's got to be in the record book somewhere.
Ridiculous. I mean, it's something else. And I know it's early. I'll be interested to see how Carr handles the success, because he usually implodes at some point and becomes captain checkdown, which, and I know annoys coaches. Like he's the guy that I don't know what his issue is, because he's always been talented.
Right.
It's just they were stuck with his contract, so he was coming back anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But they're off to a good start, and we'll see what the Eagles can do.
Well, Adam, before we move on, the Eagles certainly didn't give their fans the result that they wanted, but it was great to see the Link packed again for a prime time game, because there really is nothing like seeing a sporting event live, whether it's an NFL game, a college game, a Major League Baseball playoff game, which we know is coming to Citizens Bank Park in October. It'll be a red October, and you can get tickets to any of these sporting events, college, NFL, MLB playoffs, or even a concert or a comedy show. I was just at a comedy show recently. I got to see the King of Queens. He's Kevin James. He was pretty
Yeah.
funny comedian. You can get tickets to all these events on the Game Time app, and they've got a great feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier, because it filters out the fluff to show you only the incredible deals on the great seats. You don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. So if you want to go see the Phillies in the playoffs and you really want to get the best value for your seats, you're going to spend a lot of money anyway. That's what the Game Time feature is for. It'll be called the super deal or the amazing deal, and it'll find the best value for the row or the area where you're sitting. There's nothing really like it. I don't think any other app does this. It customizes it for you, and that's what makes Game Time the best ticketing app. The super deal, the seats, the view from the seat before you buy, and of course, the lowest price guarantee and the event cancellation protection. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets to sporting events, concerts, shows, whatever it is, with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code BIRDS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code BIRDS, BIRDS, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Sky Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people all over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schiller makes sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
All right, let's talk about injuries and transactions, Adam. So the Eagles have made some transactional moves. Nick Gates was signed off the practice squad
Yep.
to the active roster Monday, which we kind of got the feeling, was running out of elevations. He's very important. He's the only true backup center. We knew he was going to get onto the 53 at some point. So he's going to be on the roster. Paris Campbell and EJ Jenkins, they were elevated for the game. They revert back to the practice squad. So I believe there's only one more elevation left for EJ Jenkins and 2 more for Paris Campbell now. But not a surprise to see Gates on the 53.
Yeah, no, oh no, I mean this is we knew this was coming. It was just a matter of what week it would happen. And then a couple other interesting transactions. Apparently, Caden Stearns is going to be like the next Julian Vandervelde. So he was cut again. He was cut last Thursday, and obviously they had it worked out. They probably told him to stay in the area. It's the way that
Mhm.
works.
Mhm.
So he was cut last Thursday and re-signed Tuesday to the practice squad. Your guy Kevin Folsch was released again from the practice squad, so that's probably
He'll
going
be
to be
back.
yeah, exactly. The practice squad tango. And Patrick Johnson, who was waived to make room for Gates, he was claimed by the off waivers by the Giants on Tuesday. So Patrick will not be coming back to the Eagles practice squad.
It's not listen, I get it, not a huge loss, but it is very interesting from a special team standpoint that, you talk about guys like Patrick Johnson and Zach McPherson and Josh Jobe, like some of the most critical members of the Eagles special teams the last 2 years are not even part of the team anymore. And so they've got a new core of guys to be on those main units there. I wonder if that'll have any kind of impact.
Well, Jalen Hunt took his, well, not that he would play as much as Patrick Johnson on specials, but he essentially at least got some of his snaps. He had 13. He didn't play on defense, Hunt, but he did play 13% of the snaps, and it counted for 59% of their special team snaps. So yeah, we'll see. He can run, and remember he's a former safety, Hunt. So we'll see if he can help them in that area.
All right. Hope everybody's been checking out Andrew DeCecco's coverage. He's been doing a great job. Make sure you're reading InsideTheBirds.com for all of Andrew's stuff. And Andrew is also he'll pop up on the Ask ITB live streams that we do for our Patreon members, which in fact we have one tonight that we'll be doing at 8 o'clock. Look forward to that. As always, patreon.com/InsideTheBirds. That's how you get all of our pods first, how you get it ad free. You get the special shows like Ask Greg Cosell, our monthly Ask an Eagle. We're going to be announcing our next Ask an Eagle fairly soon. And of course, our next Chalk Talk podcast as well will be coming up soon. So make sure you're looking for that. Patreon.com/Inside the Birds. As far as injuries are concerned, I mean, AJ Brown, Lisa Salters dropped the bomb during that broadcast. Oh, I just talked to AJ Brown. Yeah, the hamstring. And then he's like, he's going to be out for a few weeks. Now, Nick Sirianni, as Nick Sirianni is wont to do, tried to throw some cold water on it. He kind of gave the, we'll see if it's that long. I don't know. I don't normally discuss injuries, but if AJ Brown says it's going to be a couple weeks, it's going to be a couple weeks.
He knows his hamstring. I mean, he's a receiver.
Yeah.
They only have 2 games before the bye. So unless it improves greatly, he's not going to play. So forget about this week. The question is, could he somehow miraculously get better? And it would really help in Tampa because they're off to a good start. They're 1-1 now. Boy, if it would not be good if they're 1-3 headed into the bye. Despite how bad the division is, you don't want that. So anything could help, but we'll see. Then the good thing is they'll come out of the game. They didn't list anyone coming out with an injury. We'll see if today the first injury report for the week. Yeah, we're back to a Wednesday schedule. We'll see after 4 p.m. Eastern today if we get any pop-up injuries, the dreaded pop-up injury. But right now, that is it. Devin White was, I know he was on the injury report with an ankle, but he was able to play if he was available, but of course they had him inactive for the game.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what happens going forward.
Yep. As far as the Saints, they've got a couple of starters who have been injured. I know Marshawn Lattimore has been dealing with a hamstring injury. He did not play last game. Did he play either of the first 2 games?
He played the first game and got hurt.
Right.
And then he's had chronic hamstring problems throughout his career.
Yep.
And they're the kings of restructures. His contract is so bad, his cap numbers are so bad. If they get rid of him after the season, whether they trade him or cut him, if it happens, I mean they're taking him. They'll have to post June 1 it. It's just they've set themselves up. They hate it. We've talked about this for years, man. They are the kings of kicking the can down the road with a cap.
Mm.
And Colin Saunders, who's a starter for them, he got hurt. He actually got hurt in the preseason, so he's missed his first 2 games. Brian Brisset, the first rounder, is starting for Saunders. Then Kool-Aid McKinstry started for Lattimore, his first NFL start last week.
Oh, so you got the Clemson kid in Brisset and the Alabama kid in Kool-Aid McKinstry.
There you go.
Yeah, I remember those guys. Yeah, like I said, I mean, the Saints defense has sort of been able to enjoy having really huge leads. So it's hard but they're traditionally a strong defense anyway under Dennis Allen. Their linebackers are good. I mean, they've got Demario Davis, they got Willie Gay. So that's a fast set of nickel linebackers there.
Pete Werner.
Pete Werner is a good
player.
linebacker.
Yep.
Like you said, when Lattimore's healthy, he's a really good player. Adebo is a good corner. They've got Paulson. Is that his first name, right?
Yeah, Debo. Yeah, Paulson
Yeah.
Adebo. Yeah, Paulson Adebo.
Paulson Adebo. And then again, Chase Young has been playing better. Cam Jordan, always one of the better defensive linemen in the league. This is not an easy defense, and it's been helped by having huge leads that has enabled it to really, do whatever it want to. So this will be another challenge for an A.J. Brown-less Eagles offense.
The Honey Badgers there.
Honey Badger, right?
Still
Yeah.
playing. Alante Taylor's their nickel. Has been a good story. The second rounder 2 years ago. The very underrated Carl Granderson. It came out of nowhere, former undrafted free agent in 2019 to be a quality pass rusher.
Good player.
Peyton Turner, their first round pick 3 years ago, has been hurt a lot, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But Cam Jordan, there's got to be talk of the Hall of Fame with him. He's so good. Some of us are old enough to remember his dad, Steve, at tight end for the Vikings.
Yep.
But yeah, they're really well coached. It's basically been their offense is underachieved for years, which is why they've been disappointed. Their special teams are really good with Darren Rizzi, their special teams coach, and Dennis Allen calls their defense with Joe Woods coming over from Cleveland. And we mentioned Clint Kubiak. We'll talk more about with Greg in our pregame show. Now, can't wait to see what Greg thinks about their tape, man. The players love this scheme. Like they start talking about in OTAs, and it sure shows. They've looked incredible so far.
All right, great stuff. That wraps it up. Make sure you listen out today. If you're listening to this early, later today, we will have Gun on One, the next interview. Derek Gunn interviewing former Eagle, former Steeler, current celebrity on NBC Sports Philadelphia, Barrett Brooks. Always a good discussion when Barrett and D-Gun get together. That'll be Gun on One. And then again, the next day we'll have Inside the Tape with Greg Cosell. I hope everyone enjoyed the first Rookie Diary. We're podcasting it now with Will Shipley that Andrew DeCecco is doing. And then later this week, Andrew will be doing his first Inside the Locker Room podcast for the platform as well. And I did want to mention, something that you and I and Josh have sort of wrestled with over the years, and we decided we're just going to do it because we feel like people would want it. And that's we're putting our every day, Monday through Friday, either me, Adam, or Andrew does a 4:00 interview with 97.3 ESPN South Jersey. Mike Gill is the host. It's called Football at 4 segment. We've been doing it for years and putting it up on YouTube, but we're now podcasting it because it's daily content featuring either me, Adam, or Andrew, and it's during the season. And listen, we thought it was be a good idea just to give people more content and make it more easily available. So now that is now up on the podcast platform for everyone else to absorb. And of course, we got to mention that Quentin Michael, Jason Avant, they'll be back. Q&A will be out today as well. So a lot of great stuff coming to you on the podcast platform. That's going to do it for this edition of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in the Eagles Intel. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird. Be sure to check out our friends at PHLSportsNation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation.